Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, so from today onwards, for the next 2 weeks, we will be just doing some programming exercises because we have enough time before midterm. So, in today's lecture, we will start from the very basic programs, the program folder that I have given to you. We will start from that only. We will revise some basic programs, and we intend to cover a lot of programming exercises such that our entire instruction set is covered, and some typical programs regarding 8085 or 8086 microprocessor, as well as regarding interfacing, will be done, right? So slowly I will be introducing interfacing devices in between. I mean, I'll be introducing one interfacing device per week, and rest all lectures will be for programming, right? So that's what we are going to do, so that we will have a deeper understanding of 8086, right? So I only see 38 people here. I'll just take the attendance now so that I may have a note of who is joining it on time or not. Yeah. So let's start by, is somebody trying to say something? There is some disturbance. Okay.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes. Tell me.
Sir, our midterm will be offline or online?
I am not the relevant person to ask this question, and as per the orders up till now, there is nothing regarding offline. So, as per now, the information that is available officially, it has to be online, right? And when the authorities will decide to open the college, they will let you know through proper channels. So, in my information as of now, nothing new has come. So, it will be online only, right? And I'm not aware if there is any new information, so you should check with your HODs, etc. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, anything else? Okay. So let's start. Let's start just by seeing the basics of 8086 again, because we have covered a lot of topics about 8086, and now we would like to do some kind of programming for that. Wait a minute. This has, yeah. So let's start some with some again the basics of 8086. Please switch off
Sir,
your mic. Yeah, tell me.
sir, can you explain once again near function and far function?
Yeah, I will take everything in sequence. I will take everything in sequence. So we'll start from all the basic programs that we have done up till now, and then from tomorrow onwards, or maybe day after tomorrow onwards, we will start new and some complex level programming, right? So we'll see everything from scratch. So for people who haven't done programming yet, this is the good time to start, so they can start again the programming sessions, right? So we have seen this architecture of 8086. I'll quickly walk you through it because before programming, it is necessary for us to understand some few basic points from architecture, right? So here you already know that inside this the register stack that you have got is AX, BX, CX, and DX. They are 16-bit registers, and you can also use them as two 8-bit registers by higher and lower names AHAL, PHBL, and so on and so forth, right? So this is the register stack. These are general purpose registers. AX is the accumulator, which is used for some default operations, not all default operations. The operations which will be used will be multiplication, etc. So in that, AX will be operating as a default operand, and the result will be stored in that, right? And then BX register is used as base register in some applications for indexing. CX register is used as counter, and DX register is usually used for interrupts, right? Like interrupt 21H. So if you keep different values in this AX or AL or AX pair, and DX has some different set of values, then interrupt 21H will be behaving in different ways, right? And after that, you have got this stack pointer, base pointer, source index, destination index. So these registers are all base registers and pointer registers and index registers. So SI and DI, they can be used with your data segment and extra segment, and this stack pointer is used with stack, and base pointer, it is used in indexing operations. So various commands can be formulated by using this base pointer, right? Then apart from that, we have got internal code segment, data segment, extra segment, and stack segment registers. These are not the actual code segment, data segment, etc. These are the registers which hold the first or the base address of the starting of these segments. I mean, if there is data segment, then the externally interfaced memory, which is interfaced to this microprocessor, is 1 MB, and because of that, you should have 20 address bits for each location, and 20 address bit, it actually translates to 5 hexadecimal digits. But the starting address of any segment is kept in such a manner that the last hexadecimal digit or the last 4 binary bits are always 0. So that is why we are only left with first 16 bits, because the rest 4 bits are already assumed to be 0. So those first 16 bits are stored in these internal registers for the corresponding segments, right? IP is the instruction pointer, so it will be used in combination with CS register. For example, if you are in the code segment, then the base address will be stored in the code segment, that is 4 hexadecimal digits. First 4 hexadecimal digits will be stored in this code segment register, and after storing that address inside this one segment, which is called as code segment, which will now be of 64 kilobyte, because it can be this size is pre-decided by this 8086. So inside that 64 kilobytes, on which location you want to go, you have to specify in IP register. Similarly, if you're talking about data segment or extra segment, the offsets will be stored here, and in SI and DI, the corresponding offset address will be used. Similarly, for stack segment, base address in SS register will be there, and your stack pointer will be containing the offset address. And mind you, stack operates in reverse order of addresses. The data is, however, stored in little endian fashion only, and stack, it operates in 16-bit fashion. Then talking about the internal data bus and the address bus of 8086. So the internal data bus of 8086 is of 16 bits, and that is the primary reason this 8086 is a 16-bit microprocessor. However, the address bus happens to be of 20 bits because the external memory is 1 MB. So you have to raise to the power of 20 locations. Each location will be consuming 1 byte. That means 8 bits, right? So this is the internal data bus. Then you have this instruction queue. This instruction queue is of 6 bytes, because the longest instruction possible in this is your 6 bytes long, and that is why it is 6 bytes. Then you have the usual decoding circuit and timing and control circuit as we had in 8085. Then arithmetic logic unit is also of 16 bits, and flag registers, they are also of 16 bits, right? So this is the general format of 8086. The differences between 8085 and 8086 are simply this. You see this bus interface unit and the execution unit, right? So in 8085, there was no such bifurcation. In 8086, however, there is. And bus interface unit, it is mainly involved in fetching the data from the externally interfaced memory inside the microprocessor through this queue, right? And there are 3 cycles: fetch cycle, decode cycle, and execute cycle, right? So in 8085, they were sequential in nature. First fetch will happen, that is, the instruction byte will be read from the external memory. Then decode will happen, that is, that instruction will be decoded after that, and after decoding, the execution part will happen in 8085. But in 8086, the fetch, decode, and execute, they happen in parallel because of this instruction queue. There in 8085, we only had an instruction byte. Here we have an instruction queue. So that is why this fetch and decode and execute, they happen in parallel. Execute happen in this execution unit because the arithmetic logic unit and the decoding unit is already there. So whatever instruction is pre-fetched in this, you do not take the entire instruction at once. You take it byte by byte, or maybe 2 bytes or 3 bytes at a time. So that will be decoded from the decoding circuit, and as the queue gets empty, as 2 bytes get emptied from the queue, next 2 bytes will be fetched from the memory, right? So on this is the architecture of 8086. Then coming to the structure of memory, as we have already discussed that the externally interfaced memory has 1 MB locations, and it has got 4 segments inside it. 4 segments are there inside it, and these 4 segments, if you combine 64 into 4, that will not give you complete 1 MB. So apart from that, a lot of memory is left. So in these blue spaces that you see in between, they have got a lot of memory, and this diagram is not drawn to scale. So uh, if you see it, a lot of memory is left in these blue spaces. So for what is that memory left? That memory is left for most of the times the interrupt routines that you will write. So interrupt routines are there, then interrupt vector table is there, so and other parts of operating system might be there. So for those all things, this externally interfaced memory is mostly empty. Only some part of memory is consumed by these 4 segments, and it is not necessary that in your program you cannot have in your program you can have some combination of these segments that you see here, right? So you can have one data segment and one code segment, an extra segment and stack segment might not be sorry, required in your program, right? So you can have few segments out of these, and you might also have multiple data segments or multiple extra segments or multiple any segments in your program. But while an instruction is getting executed, only one segment will be treated as data segment. For example, you have two data sets or three data, you have 2 or 3 data segments in your program. That is possible for complete program as a whole. But when one instruction is getting executed, the value which is kept in DS register is only one. You cannot keep multiple values in DS register. So when one instruction is getting executed, one data segment will be used out of that. So at one point of time, only one data segment will be active, right? And this is valid for every other segment. So you can have multiple segments in your program. You can even have overlapping segments, right? It is not necessary to make a segment of 64 kilobytes completely. You can also have overlapping segments, but then you should take care of the fact that overlapping should not affect your program, right? So this is how the memory of 8086 looks like. And then after this memory structure, we studied the structure of flag, and in flag we said that there will be 16 bits. Out of that, these 4x that you see in the upper byte and 3x's that you see in the lower byte are don't cares. And for the first 8 bits, right, for the first 8 bits, that is still from CY to sign, the flag format is same as 8085: carry, parity, auxiliary carry, 0, and sign. Then the other flags that are newly introduced are 4 here, and they are trap flag, which are used for step-by-step execution. Then interrupt flag is there. Then there is this direction flag and overflow flag, right? So overflow is used in the cases when your result has broken the range of, if you're doing a 16-bit calculation or an 8-bit calculation, then multiplying two 8-bit numbers might result in a 16-bit number. So simple carry will not help there. Overflow is necessary for that. Direction flag is for, moving your data in one direction. I mean, in the external memory locations, you always proceed from the lower address to the higher order address. But if you change this direction flag, you can access the memory in the reverse order too. Then there is this interrupt flag. So interrupt flag, we already know what is the usage of that, and trap flag has already been discussed. So this is the structure of the flag registers that we have in 8086. And then there are some important points about this architecture of 8086. It's a 16-bit microprocessor, and it was decided because the data bus happens to be of 16 bits, and the accumulator register, AX register, it is also of 16 bits. So data bus is of 16 bits. That is why we say that it's a 16-bit microprocessor. Then it has 4 16-bit general purpose registers. We have already seen that. Then there are 8 8-bit general purpose registers, which are parts of these registers only, AX, BX, CX, and DX. So we have already seen this. Externally interfaced memory of 1 megabyte. So this 1 megabyte memory is the maximum limit in which this memory can be interfaced. But you may interface a smaller memory than that depending upon your requirement. Then it has got a 16-bit data bus, so that is true. 20-bit address bus, which is also true because we have got 1 megabyte of memory location. Then 6-byte instruction queue is there, 16-bit arithmetic logic unit is there. Then segmented memory, CS, DS, SS, and EX are the segment registers that addresses the 64 kilobyte external memory each, right? Then corresponding pointer registers are there. With CS, IP is used. With DS and SS, you may use SI and DI. And with this ES, this is not EX. With this ES, you can use SI or DI. And with stack segment, you can use a stack pointer, right? Then a clock frequency of 5 megahertz with duty cycle of 33% is required. So this is some general quick revision to your 8086 microprocessor. The important point here is that we should be able to see its programming models. So from the programmer's perspective, it is not necessary to understand the complete hardware construction of 8086. It is sufficient for us to understand the programming model. I mean the registers which are accessible to the programmer for being able to program it, right? So that's what we are going to see next in this programming model. Yeah. So in this programming model, you have got general purpose registers, which we have already discussed, which can be used as 16-bit or 8-bit fashion. So this is we have already seen. Then there are these index registers SI and DI for having the offset addresses. Then this SP and BP, these are pointer registers. So they will also be, this SP will also be serving as, holding the offset address for stack, and base pointer would be used in some address indexing calculations. Then you have these control registers in which you have got instruction pointer and the complete flag register. So this instruction pointer is used, we already know, together with this CS register and CS and IP. These two set of registers, they hold the complete address of which instruction is to be executed next. So CS is of 16 bits, IP is again of 16 bits. But the addresses in CS and IP, they are not combined just by adding them. So first, if you take the hexadecimal representation of this CS, a hexadecimal 0 is appended after CS, and then whatever 5 hexadecimal digits CS is formed, to that value instruction pointer is added, right? Similar is true for DS and this SI or DI register, whatever is used with it, ES and SI or DI register, and SS and stack pointer. So this the complete thing of conversion of address from two 16-bit registers to one 20-bit data, it is done by the address adder, that is a dedicated adder in the execution, that is a dedicated adder in the bus interface unit. So we will again see that. So this adder that you see here, this adder address conversion mechanism is there. So this adder is separately used for that. So this adder is different from the adder which is used by arithmetic logic unit. Arithmetic logic unit will have many hardware components. One of them might be adder, and that adder is placed inside this ALU. But this adder has been separately shown, and this is a dedicated adder for address conversion mechanism. It converts two 16-bit datas into one 20-bit data. So that is the usage of that. And from programmer's perspective, only this much amount of model should be known to us. We have general registers, index registers, pointer registers, control registers, and segment registers. So these registers will be used for programming, right? So after having known this, let us now start some basic programs of 8086, which we have already done in various sections of the lectures. But in today's lectures, we will give them a quick revision so that from the next lecture, we can make some complex level programs, right? So let me open one of the programs. Right, so I'll begin from very simple program. So here the program that I have written is a simple program to see the data transfer between two registers. So here, I am using general purpose registers AX and BX. So this is AX and BX register. And in that, I am trying to move some data. So AX is a 16-bit register, so it will have 4 hexadecimal digits. So 1234H will be moved inside this AX register. And move command is a copy command. So whatever data you have written here, 1234, the direction of the data flow will be, from this second argument to the first argument, right? So 1234H will be transferred to AX register. And inside 8086, there is no MVI command. To do the same thing in 8085, we need MVI command. And if you are moving the data between registers, you will need move commands in 8085. But in 8086, you have only one command, which is MOV, right? So you can see that MOV has been used for moving the immediate data to the AX register, or in one next command, MOV has been used to move the data from one register to another register, right? And the first argument is destination, the second argument is source. That is why the direction of transfer of data is from source to destination. That is second argument to the first argument, right? So here what we have done is we have moved a simple 1, 2, 3, 4 data in hexadecimal into AX register. Similarly in BX we are moving a data of A123, and a 0 is appended before that, because if you see the actual number, it is A123. So it starts from a character, it starts from an alphabet. So we would like the software or the assembler to know that this is not a string, this is actually a number. So for that, if your number starts from an alphabet, we have to append a 0 before that, right? So in that way, this data is moved in the BX register. Then between the general purpose registers, you can transfer the data if they are of same size. So CX and BX, both of them are of 16 bits. So you can transfer the data between them. And for this, move DS comma CX. Now DS is your segment register, and you can already see that this is in deep red color, and all the other registers are only in simple red color, right? So in the data segment, or for that matters any segment register, you cannot transfer the data directly. Segment registers cannot be initialized with immediate data. This is what I have written here also. Segment registers cannot be initialized with immediate data. So they have to be initialized by some other register. So this data has to be kept in these registers, and then it can be copied into these. Now, why has this restriction been there? So this restriction is there because if inside your program you try to transfer immediate data into this DS register, then you can imagine that the base address of data segment will change like anything. If you are working inside a loop and you are changing the value of DS register, that is by mistake you are using it as a general purpose register, so that should not be possible, that should be difficult. And to that note, they have put this restriction that these segment registers cannot be initialized by immediate data. So they have to be initialized by some register, and their values can be copied into them. So this is very simple program for interacting between the registers. And from this program, we have learned several things, that there is no MVI command, there is only move command. Then if the number begins from alphabet, it has to start with 0. This 0 is symbolically written to tell the assembler that this is a number. And you can use the move command with immediate data or the register pairs. And this can also be used with the memory locations, as we will soon see. So you can move the data from registers to memory locations. Moving data from memory location to memory location is not possible, right? You cannot have both of the locations as memory locations here, because that way the microprocessor will be bypassed, and that is not possible in 8086. You cannot directly bypass the microprocessor, right? So for that, there are specialized devices, which we will see when we will read interfacing. So there are some specialized devices, but this way it cannot be done, right? Then we saw that segment registers cannot be initialized directly. So this is some simple program for transferring the data between the registers. Now, let us move on to the next program, which is addition of two numbers. And this program is fairly simple. And what we will first do is we will initialize the data segment. Then we will keep two numbers at two different places, and then we will add them and again store them in memory location, right? So here the example that we are taking is, let me just write everything on this paint program so it will become clear to you. Right. So here, let me first read it out for you. So putting the first 4 hexadecimal, okay, right. So we are initializing this data segment. We are initializing this data segment by 8000H, right? So here I have got this 8000H. This is 810 2, 3. This is the base address. This is the base address. And if you want to get the physical address out of that, you have to append one more zero. So this one more zero is appended, right? So this value that you see, which is written in black, it is kept in this DS register, which is inside the microprocessor. This last value has automatically to be zero for the starting of any segment. So that is why only first 4 hexadecimal digits are kept in this data segment register, right? So to initialize the data segment, we know that you cannot directly put the data inside this data segment register. So you have first put it in the AX register and then copied that data here. So that way your data segment will be initialized, and starting from location 80,000 instead of this 8,000, 80,000 is the starting address, starting physical address, and after that 64 kilobyte locations will be assigned to data segment, right? So that way your data segment is initialized. And here in your SI register, you have moved a value of 0004H, and in the next line, you have written this command move DL, comma, in brackets SI. In brackets SI means whatever is the data which is kept at offset address of SI, right? So SI has got a value of 0004, and the starting of data segment is 8000H. So after the starting address at the fourth location, that is at 80,000 fourth location, whatever data is kept, that data has to be copied to the DL register. Then again you will just increment the SI by using this INC command. So it will increment the SI register, and after incrementing it, you will take the data from 0005 location into the CH register, right? And then you will add the data of DL and CH. After adding them, the result will be automatically stored in DL register. Now here, this is one point of difference from 8085. In 8085, the data was usually stored in the accumulator after addition, and the addition command there only had one argument. The other argument was by default accumulator. But here in 8086, it is not the case. You have 2 separate arguments, and the format is destination, comma, source. After addition, the result will be stored in destination only, right? So DL register will contain your final data, and you want to store that data at location 0001 offset address in data segment. So for that, you will initialize this DI register, and then you have added DI and SI. So you do not want to store your data at 0001. Rather, you want to store your data at SI plus DI location. So DI is 0001. SI now has become 0005 because it has been incremented here. So at 0006 location, by using this, you can just copy your data there, right? So I have written this add DI, SI command specifically because I wanted to illustrate that these index registers, they can also be added like general purpose registers. So you can add them, and after adding, you can again use this format in bracket DI and comma DL. So DL, whatever it contains, it will be moved to this DI register, right? So let's see an illustration of that. So if you emulate this program, yes, somebody is asking something. Yes.
Sir, can't we add directly any general purpose register with SI?
What is the question? Please repeat again.
Sir, can't we add any general purpose register with SI directly?
You can check it. You try to let us say instead of DI, if I write here say AX, right? Let's try to run it and see. You can add it. AX and SI are added, right?
Okay, sir.
So if DI and SI are not serving the purpose of index registers, they can be used as general purpose registers as well, right? So here in this program, let us try to run it and see. So this is the interface of 8086 emulator, and inside that there are various elements which we have already discussed, but I will quickly walk you through that. So here is the register stack that we have discussed: AX, BX, CX, DX registers. Then code segment with instruction pointer, stack segment with stack pointer. Then there is a base pointer which is alone here, and then source index, destination index registers are already there, which can be used in combination with DS and ES registers. So these are your 16-bit registers, and then here you can browse the memory by putting the base address, 4 hexadecimal digit base address, and the offset address here. And you can see that inside memory locations, the hexadecimal equivalent together with their decimal equivalent is being shown here, right? And ASCII equivalent is also shown here, but that we will be using when we'll be using string instructions. So here we said that we will be starting our data segment from 8,000 locations. So let me put 8,000 here, and at the fourth location, let's go to 80,000 fourth location. Let me keep some data. So here I am keeping 02. So let me keep 02 here, and at fifth location, let me keep 03 here. So this is your 03, and this data has been kept there. And now when this program will be executed, this location, which is sixth location, should contain the addition of these two. So 3 and 2, 5 will be placed here, right? So let me run it step by step. So you can notice that after running the step number 1, because the yellow cursor has moved on to location number 5 here. So after running the step number 1, AX register should contain 80,000 H. So you can see that the values which are changed, they are highlighted by blue color in this. So you can see that this 80 has been placed here, and this instruction pointer is 0003. So this actually is the value 0003 because this instruction is consuming certain memory locations. So move AX will consume 1 byte, and 80,000 H is itself of 2 bytes. So 3 memory locations will be consumed, and that is why the instruction pointer initially, which was 0000, it is now 0003. So now we want to initialize this DS. So you can see that this DS is also initialized. Similarly, now SI has also been initialized by 0004. Now we want to copy the data of SI into DL register through this command. So at location 80,004, we have kept a data of 3. So after executing this command, you can see that in DL register, in DL register, you have got 2. So at one location, there was 2, and other location, there was 3. So by executing these set of commands, that data has been copied, 02 here and 03 here, after executing these set of commands. Now we will be adding DL and CH. DL contains 02 and CH contains 03. So after addition, 5 will appear in DL register. So you can see that 5 has appeared in DL register after execution of this command. And after that, we want to increment, we want to keep in DI a value of 0006H. So after execution of these two commands, you can see that in this DI 0006H has been kept. And after that, if you will execute the next command, at memory location number 6, your data will be kept. So let us again browse that memory location by typing the base address of data segment here. And we want to see, let us say we start from all zeros. So at location 0004, you can see it was 2, 5 it was 3, and after execution, this is 5. Then there is this halt statement. If you execute it again, the system will be halted. So this is how you run programs in 8086 and see the output in various registers, right? This was one simple program. Now let us move on to another program. So now we are going to read the conditional statements. Conditional statements like if and else. So there are two conditions. In one condition, this should happen, and in another condition, something else should happen. So we want to discuss those kind of things. And in C programming language, you must be all aware that conditional statements are usually implemented by if-else ladder. So there is a if-else statement in C programming and other programming languages. So that is used. But in here in 8086, we do not have that facility. So let us see how these conditional statements will be executed. So conditional statements, these different conditions, they appear on the basis of flag registers, right? Flag registers, they are seen for conditional statements. And depending upon the status of various sensible bits in flag register, we will be taking up some decision, right? So the program that I have made here, is fairly simple. The program is a program to add two numbers kept in AX and BX. So in AX and BX, you have kept two 16-bit numbers and you want to add them, right? And when will you be adding them? If the contents of CL are greater than 03H. So in AX and BX, you have kept two 16-bit data, and you will be adding them if the contents of CL and CL are greater than 03H. So if in CL you will keep a number greater than 03H, then your numbers in AX and BX will be added. Otherwise you will not be adding them. What you will be doing is subtract them and add 0 4h. So you will be subtracting, then you will be subtracting AX minus BX, and to the result you will be adding 0 4h. So there are two conditions depending upon the contents which are kept in this CL register. So if CL register has a value 3 or less, the numbers will be subtracted and the result will be added with 4. And if CL register has a content which is greater than 3, then the numbers will be added. So this is the program that we are supposed to do. And for that, definitely we are going to check the number in CL register. And what is the best way to check the numbers? Compare the numbers. You can subtract them. And after subtracting, the flag registers have to be checked. So that is what we will do. So you can see that in this program, I have kept a data of 5 and 2 in AX and BX registers. So it is a 16-bit data. After that, let us say that our CL register contains a value of 8. So this value can be changed by the user as less than 3 or greater than 3 or equal to 3. So CL register contains a value of 8. Now, we want to check whether the value is greater than 3 or not. So we can use this CMP command, CMP CL, 03H. So it will compare the CL and 03H. How will CMP command work? CMP command will simply work as the subtract command works. So it will subtract CL and 03. It will subtract CL and 03, and the result will not be stored in CL register, because had it been the actual subtraction command, after subtraction the result is definitely stored in destination register. But for compare command, the results will not be stored anywhere. Only the appropriate flag registers will be set. So if you know this 8 and 3 are subtracted, the result will be definitely greater than 0. It will be equal to 5. So then what we have to do is, if the result is greater, I mean if the result is greater than 0, then you have to jump to label 1. What is label 1? Label 1 is simply you have to add the two numbers and stop the program, right? And if it is not the case, then this statement will not be executed as true statement, and then you have to subtract AX minus BX and add 4 to the result, and then finally jump to label 2, which is stopping the program, because after doing the subtraction and adding 4, we do not want to add AX and BX, so we have to skip this line. So that is why we have to move to this label 2, right? So that's what this program is doing, and we will check it for two different values of CL. One is 08, and we will keep one value which is less as compared to that. So let's run this program and see what is the result of this. So since the CL, it contains 08H, so definitely this label, this subtraction and addition of 4 has to be executed. So okay, let's see the condition. What was the condition? This was a program to add two numbers AX and BX if contents of CL are greater than 03H. So okay, if the contents are greater than 03H, then simply addition will happen, right? So in current scenario, only addition will happen. So let me just run this step by step. So this AX and BX, they have data 05 and 02. And as per the condition, as per this condition, after the execution of this program, you should have this result of addition in AX register. So let me again step this complete program quickly. So you can see that AX has got the result of addition 07H, right? However, if you change the value from 08 in CL to say 01, then let's see what happens. So let me run this program in one go, and you can see that, okay, I haven't changed the values. So here you have got a value of 01. So if the value is less than 1, then let us see what happens. Okay, the CL has got a value of 1. Then let us run it in one step. And you can see, yes, now here what is happening is, since this label will not be executed as true, so subtraction of AX and BX will happen and addition of 0004 will happen. So if you subtract AX from BX, you will get simply 3, and 3 plus 4 will again be 7, right? So the result that you see here is 7 only. So let me just change these numbers for clarity so that we will be able to see two different results. Okay, so let me execute it for this case. So here you can see that this has become 8, right? So if you see it here, this is the condition when CL is 0, 1. So 6 minus 2 will be 4 and 4 plus 4 will be 8. So again, you can see that in the case of simple addition, 6 plus 2 will be 8 there. So you can try numbers which are bigger than, these single digit numbers, and then the appropriate results will be visible here, and that way your loop can be run, right? So this is another simple program. Then let me open code number 4. So here we are going to study loops. Now loops can be made in SIDE 86 in two ways. In two ways you can make loops. One way is you can use the jump statements, and the second way is you can use the dedicated loop commands. So now we are going to make one single program, and that single program will be made in both of the modes. Once we will try to make the loop by using the simple jump commands, and in the other program we are going to see the loops where we will be using the dedicated looping statements, right? So here you see we will try to create a Fibonacci series. So Fibonacci series is to be created in this program, and storing first 10 numbers. We are going to store first 10 numbers in the memory. And where we are going to store them, it is assumed that the data segment, its base address is 5000. And obviously the offset addresses will begin from 0000. So data segment's beginning is this. So with this thing in mind, let us try to create a program for Fibonacci series. And in the process, we will understand how to make loops in 8086 by using these jump statements, right? So here you can see that the data segment has been initialized by 5000H, because that's what the base address of data segment is for our program. Then I am moving a value of 0004 to this SI register. And why am I doing so? Because I want the starting location of our Fibonacci series to be the offset address 00004, right? So obviously the first two numbers in Fibonacci series are fixed, which are 00 and 01. So at location 0004, in this line, I have kept a value of 00, and I have kept a location of 01 at the next location after that. So inside 0005H, I have moved a value of 01H. So two numbers of Fibonacci series are fixed. So at location number 4 offset, and at location number 5, I have kept those values as 00 and 01. Now, an important thing to note here is that you can access the memory locations by using this syntax in bracket SI, or you can also supply a direct offset address also inside the bracket. So that is also possible, right? So both of the syntaxes are valid. You can supply the addresses in any way you want, right? After that, move BL, 08H. So this I will be treating as my counter BL register, and I want to create next 8 values of the Fibonacci series, because 2 values have already been taken in 4 and 5, and we intended to create 10 values to begin with. So in BL register, I am keeping a value of 08H. Then the next set of instructions that you see from this definition of label to this JG label command is a loop. What will it be doing is it will be summing up the previous 2 numbers, and it will be coming up with the next number in the Fibonacci series. So whatever is the next number, it will be stored at next location. So up till now, location number 0004 and 0005 have been filled with 0 and 1. So we now need to add that 0 and 1, and we need to store that at 0006, right? So that's what this loop will do, and this will continue in that manner until this complete 8 locations are filled. So inside that loop, another task will be to decrement this BL register one by one once one location has been filled. So 3 tasks are there. First of all, previous 2 numbers are to be added. Second task would be to keep that result of addition into the next location. And the third task will be to lower this value of BL with every iteration. So that's what we are going to use. So here I have incremented the value of SI, because SI contains now 00H. So I have just incremented the value of SI, so it will contain the value 0001H. Sorry, SI contains 0004H. So after this statement, SI will contain the value 0005H, right? So then I have moved the value at the offset address SI into CH register, and then I have added this value of CH to CL, because this CL register, it already contains this value at SI address. So the first statement was, inside the CL register you are moving whatever content is kept at SI location. That means the 0 value which was kept at this SI location has been moved into CL, and then incremented SI was done, and then CH will contain 0, 1 value because SI is incremented. Then you have added them both, and the result will be stored in CL. And from there you want to transfer it to next location. So you have again incremented SI, and then you have moved a value of CL at that particular location. So now SI is pointing to the last filled location, and CL is pointing, CL has copied that data there. Now, but for the next loop to run smoothly, you need to decrement SI, because you saw that in beginning, you need to start from the second last number in the series. That is why you have decremented SI. Then you have decremented BL, because you want to decrement this loop by 1 when the data is stored in that location. So that you have decremented it by 1, and you are comparing BL with 00H, because you are looking for the condition when you want to jump to the label or jump out of the label. So you have compared it with 00H and jump on greater to label 1. So until unless this difference is greater than 0, you will continuously jump to label number 1, and that way you will be again running your program, right? So that way 8 locations will be filled with the Fibonacci number. So let's run this program in one step and see what is the result. Yeah. So the data segment's beginning was 5000. So this is your 5000. And the offset addresses, let us start from 00. We will see what happens at 5004. So 50,004, it has 0 location. Then similarly 1. After that, the next element in the Fibonacci series will be the addition of these two numbers, which is again 1. The next element will be the addition of previous 2. So this is 0, 1 again. And you can see that starting from 4 locations. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So up till this D location, your 10 numbers of Fibonacci series have been stored. Now, one important point here, that since every location in memory is only of 8 bits, that is why you can have the numbers here up to FF only in Fibonacci series, right? So that way you cannot cross that memory limit, because even if you cross it, the Fibonacci series will not stop, or it won't give you any error. It's just that some numbers will be truncated abruptly and the results will not be correct. So we need to keep this limit in mind. If we want to design the program for a greater range, then in that case we have to take 2 locations consecutive for storing one number, or maybe 3 or 4 locations for storing a number consecutively, right? So that way this Fibonacci series has been implemented. But you can see that here the implementation of this Fibonacci series is essentially done by using this JG command, jump on greater command, right? So that's not useful for us, because there is a wastage of this BL register. This BL register is there, and it has to be incremented or decremented manually. So that is considered as a wastage. So in the next program, we are going to do the same thing by using dedicated looping commands. So this is the exact same program, but the only point of difference here will be that instead of using this JG command, we are using this loop command, right? So you don't have to check any flag registers. This loop command is there, and you have to check that loop command only. And what will loop command see? Loop command will run the loop until the contents kept in CX register, they become 0 automatically. So loop command, after the execution of loop one time, it will just try to decrement this CX register by itself. So you don't have to take care of the fact that you have to decrement this CX register by yourself. Loop command will do it for yourself, as well as the comparison operation. That is, you want to compare this number 0 and run that loop up till now. So that comparison operation will also be done by this loop command. So this comes very handy. The only constraint is whatever data you are using here, it has to be kept in CX register. Only the CX register will be able to operate with this loop command. You can't keep this data in any other register. So this is the default register, and loop command works only with CX register. Rest everything remains the same. And if you try to run this program, your Fibonacci series will be run. So let me run it in a single step. Let's jump to the location 50,000 physical address in memory, or 5,000 and 0000 in form of your base and offset address. So you can again see that from 50,004 to this 50,000 D, your 10 numbers of Fibonacci series are stored. So this way you can make loops by using either jump commands or by using these commands, which is the dedicated command for loop. And loop has various variants. Loop has various variants. One of the variants is loop Z, that is loop until zero flag is there. Then there are various variants of this loop command, so those variants can be used, right? So this is regarding your that looping command. Then let's move on to demo of stack. Okay, so stack is fairly simple in 8086. It is something which operates in 2-byte fashion. So that was also the case in your 8085. Stack was operating in 2 bytes fashion only. So that will also happen here. And here I have initialized my stack segment with 5000H. Then I am trying to move these values to BX and CX register. And I will try to push some data onto stack by using this push BX command. And push CX command will put these bytes of data onto the stack, and you can use equal number of pop commands to pop out the data in DX registers, right? The only point to note here will be that when the data, which is of 16 bytes, 16 bits or 2 bytes will be transferred to the stack, the data will be copied in little endian fashion. That means lower order byte will be transferred to the lower order address, and higher order byte will be transferred to the higher order address, and so on and so forth. So that way your stack will operate, right? So, okay, let me just take one important concept which I think I haven't demonstrated in the regular lectures. So if I write this command, mov, okay, let me just initialize this data segment first. So mov ax, let us say 5000 in hexadecimal, move ds comma ax. So here I have initialized my data segment. Now suppose I am trying to move in bracket si, in bracket si and 55h, right? Or let me initialize this si register also. So let us say mov and si, and I'm trying to put a value of 0001h there, and here I am doing HLT. What will happen in this case? Can somebody tell me? It is a simple program. What will happen in this case? Anyone with the answer? It's a very simple program. Yeah, I mean, simply a data of 55 will be moved to the actual physical location, which is 50,001, right? So this will happen in this program. Now, I'm just changing this program a little bit. Instead of this, I am going to store this number. Will this program work now? Will this program work now? It will work. Let's see what happens after executing that. So I've executed this program, and let us see. This is something which I forgot to illustrate in the regular lectures because that was not required there. So you can see here 50,001 location contains 66 and 50,002 location contains 55. So in the little endian way, it has copied this data which is of 16 bits to two locations, and this command is perfectly valid. So it move in bracket si, and you can also write a 1 byte data or a 2 byte data. If it is a 2 byte data, it will be copied in the little endian fashion to two consecutive locations. So this facility is also there in 8086, which we haven't pointed out, but it exists there. So is this concept clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are some simple programs that we have discussed today, and we will complete the remaining programs in the tomorrow's lecture, and then we will move on to some complex programs, right? So for the people who do not join this Microsoft Teams on time, I have already taken the attendance in the beginning of this lecture after 15 minutes or 10 minutes. And now I am again taking the attendance to compare it with people who have joined late, right? So accordingly, the attendances will be marked. So please make a habit of coming to the classes on time, right? Since the classes are online, you don't have to rush anywhere. So please be on time. So any doubts in this lecture? I guess things were fairly simple.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm closing the session if there are no other doubts.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.